Tonight, President Trump on the world stage at the G7 summit here in Canada. But dominating this high-stakes meeting is the escalating conflict between Israel and Iran.
Israel's doing very well right now.
With Iran facing a ferocious Israeli air campaign, President Trump tonight acknowledging Iran has reached out, wanting to de-escalate.
President Trump left the G7 summit a day early, and that alone was enough to raise eyebrows. But what happened next shocked the world. Just as Air Force One was about to land in Washington, D.C., Trump posted a chilling message on Truth Social. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. That one sentence sparked panic across Iran's capital, and the entire world held its breath.
They'd like to talk, but they should have done that before. I'd say Iran is not winning this war. And they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late.
We're going to take you to Kananaskis in Canada, where Donald Trump has just spoken, alongside UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
Look, Iran should have signed the deal.
If it would help bring Iran to the negotiating table, would you guarantee that the U.S. would not get involved?
Well, I think Iran basically is at the negotiating table. They want to make a deal. And as soon as I leave here, we're going to be doing something. But I have to leave here. I have, this commitment. I have a lot of commitments. I have a commitment to a lot of countries, including the UK, where we just signed our deal.
Mr. President,
where are you settling on steel tariffs?
We're gonna let you have that information in a little while.
Russia-Ukraine talks on U.S.-Russia talks, when will they restart?
They're starting already.
It didn't take long for the puzzle pieces to start falling into place. Reports from Tel Aviv revealed that missile alarms, which had previously been false, had now become deadly real. Ballistic missiles and drones had been launched, and some even managed to slip past Israel's defenses. 4 of them struck near Tel Aviv. One exploded in a parking lot, setting a bus on fire. Another hit a residential area. Luckily, no one was injured, but the message was clear. This was war. Israeli officials quickly announced that they had taken out Iran's newly appointed wartime chief of staff, one of the closest people to the Ayatollah. This was the man who had just replaced the last commander, who also died in an Israeli strike. Iran's military leadership was being wiped out, one by one. Trump didn't return home for a casual update. He went straight into high-level meetings with the National Security Council. According to sources, discussions were already happening behind the scenes about Iran's nuclear capabilities and a possible U.S. military response. Trump also confirmed that he wasn't coming back to work on a ceasefire. He said it was much bigger than that.
We begin this morning with a Fox News alert. In just a few minutes, President Trump is expected to land back in Washington, D.C. after leaving the G7 summit a day early. The president meeting with the National Security Council, and the White House is reportedly planning talks with Iran this week.
Right now, nearly 1 million people rushing to bomb shelters in Tel Aviv as more than 300,000 people are being warned to evacuate Tehran.
So what exactly is bigger than that? Experts believe that the United States may be preparing for deeper involvement in the Israel-Iran conflict. Until now, America's role was mostly limited to supporting Israel's missile defense, but with the situation rapidly escalating, that could change at any moment. In fact, American tankers were reportedly being moved to Europe to prepare for a potential air bridge, signaling the possibility of extended air operations in the Middle East. The stakes couldn't be higher. Iran had already launched over a dozen missile attacks in the past few days, and Israel claimed it destroyed 1/3 of their launchers. However, there's growing concern that Iran's command structure is falling apart. Military analysts say Iran may be struggling to organize counterattacks, especially as Israeli strikes continue to dismantle key infrastructure. Then there's the nuclear issue. The only aircraft capable of carrying the bunker-busting bombs needed to strike deep underground Iranian nuclear sites is the B-2 bomber. Only the U.S. has it. If Trump gives the green light, the Pentagon is ready. One possible target, the Fordow nuclear facility, which is buried deep in a mountain. And yet, despite all the fiery rhetoric and open conflict, there may still be a narrow path to diplomacy.
Good morning, Carly. The ballistic missile attacks directed in the area of central Israel and northern Israel continue. But after several false alarms last night, a missile attack materialized, but instead of hundreds of missiles and drones, there were tens of missiles and drones. There were some that got through. We've seen some 4 impacts in Herzliya, which is just north of Tel Aviv. One struck a parking lot where a bus was set on fire. We've also got reports that a residence was hit. No one was home at the time, and no one was injured. It all happens as President Trump abruptly left the G7 summit in Canada and posted an ominous message to his Truth Social, concluding with the line, "Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran."
Trump's warning to Tehran wasn't just a threat. It may also have been a signal. Reports indicate that talks with Iran could happen as early as this week. Even though the Ayatollah is still calling the shots, Iran's president has left the door open to negotiations. After losing several top commanders, and with their missile supplies running low, Iran might be more willing to make a deal, especially one that would avoid regime collapse. But that leads to the big question. Can Iran be trusted? Trump has made it clear he's skeptical. He doesn't want another bad deal. This time, any agreement would require Iran to completely halt its missile attacks and stop advancing its nuclear program. If Iran shows good faith, there may be a diplomatic off-ramp. If not, Trump has already laid out the other option. The message is simple. Military pressure is back on the table.
Israeli warplanes continue to aggressively target Iran. This morning, the IDF claims to have killed Ali Shadmani, Iran's newly appointed wartime chief of staff. He was the most senior military commander closest to the Grand Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, but he only had the job for 4 days. He was appointed after his predecessor was killed in the early stages of what Israel is now calling, or has been calling, Operation Rising Lion.
In fact, a second U.S. aircraft carrier has already been deployed to the region, giving Trump all options for a full-scale strike if necessary. Surveillance is non-stop. Space Force is tracking missile launches. The Navy is intercepting threats. And yes, Trump has every tool at his disposal to strike Iran if he decides diplomacy has failed. When President Trump stepped off Air Force One, the entire world was watching. Cameras flashed, analysts speculated, and behind the scenes, decisions were being made that could alter the course of history. Right now, the situation is fluid. Intelligence agencies are monitoring Iran's movements. Israel is preparing for another wave of attacks, and Trump is weighing every option, from bunker-busting airstrikes to high-stakes diplomacy. What's certain is this: Iran is under more pressure than ever, and Trump's sudden return from the G7 summit, combined with his ominous warning to Tehran, has thrown the entire Middle East into uncertainty. Will Iran back down? Will they come to the negotiating table before it's too late? Or is the region headed for an even larger and more dangerous war? For now, we wait. But one thing is clear. This is no longer just about Israel and Iran. The world has been pulled into the conflict, and whatever decision Trump makes next could change everything. Don't miss a single update on this unfolding crisis. Subscribe now and stay one step ahead of the story.